really like sipping that Bordeaux, don't you?
It's a
Bordeaux?
Merlot. It's a Merlot.
Oh,
Mhm.
I was close. I was very
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
But, see, how long have they aged? 100 years?
No,
200?
this has only been aged for 3 years. 3 years.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what ages like good wine,
Well,
good thoughts,
good thought. Yeah.
which is
Exactly.
why I want to talk about today. By the way, guys, I need to start introducing ourselves. My name is Alex Vidaj, and that's Professor Mark McIntyre, and
Oh,
we are here, the Alex and Mark Show, and we would
yes.
like to stay here, so please make sure to donate.
Right.
One time via PayPal or monthly, greatly appreciated. And also to keep us alive without
And
kissing us would
keep
be
us
sharing
right.
and liking and what are you gonna like interrupt me or am I gonna like talk over you or like one of us is gonna do this or
End the
yeah.
commercial. Let's get on to business. Come
All
on.
right. So
For the
I wanna
question.
I wanna pose the question.
Yeah.
Have we intellectually changed within the last 100 years?
Definitely yes. There's no question about it. Yeah. And actually, I'd actually extend it way back to Rene Descartes in the 17th century.
Well,
Um,
I mean we've I would say yes, we've intellectually changed
yeah.
on a like grand scale.
Right.
But as far as the elitists and the academics,
Yeah.
I'd say that we've barely changed. And the only way we have changed is that we've become more existentialist. We've become more authentic in our beliefs. We're living out our beliefs. The seeds were planted
Mhm.
in the pre-war, pre-World War II, between World War I and II. The intellectual seeds were planted.
Mhm.
Certain ideas were planted, and they've grown to their fullest extent
Mhm.
as of today. And I think that Trump signals or the Obama period signals the zenith, and Trump is the pushback against that zenith.
So you subscribe to the C.S. Lewis predicate in so many of his essays and his books that between the wars, we lost our approach to the transcendent realities and the transcendent principles and values. You
Well,
subscribe to that? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that we lost it. I
Uh,
would say that the intellectual elite gave up on it. And
uh,
they've been chipping away for the last 100 years
uh-huh.
to the point, it's what it started with is God is dead, everything is sad, to now where we're giving hormones to children to transition them into, 50 different genders
Right.
simultaneously.
Uh,
That's,
well,
that's
I mean, you pose an interesting question because you asked a question about has our intellectual outlook changed in the last 100 years? This is 2020, so 100 years ago was 1920, and that was just after the First World War. So your question is well framed. But I do subscribe to the C.S. Lewis notion that war has been so horrific, especially the first one, the First World War. It's so horrific that whole generations of young men and women, mostly men, were simply wiped off the planet. That, and then the question became pregnant, which is now asked in every philosophy 101 class, 101 class by every professor. Uh, 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 well,
yeah.
every philosophy professor, especially Professor Stoner. Uh, if there's a good God, then how could God permit evil? That whole question started the intellectual abandonment, I believe, in transcendental principles and
Now,
values.
what's interesting is that sadness and suffering existed before World War I. A lot of history, philosophy professors, they forget. It boggles my mind how they act as though nobody ever thought of that question, like ever. Like that boggles my mind. Like, oh yeah, reading the Bible, this good person, Jesus dying. Boy, wait, he's a good person. How can bad things happen to good people? Like, man, gee whiz, I never thought of it.
Yeah,
So aside, like all that condescending stuff aside,
yeah,
I think that the difference is that now I would go back to Matthew Brady I think it was Matthew Brady during the Civil War.
yeah. He was a photographer for the.
Right, right. His photography
Mhm.
had a huge impact on people's perception of war
Yes, it
because
did.
people could see big giant, average people could see
Right.
large
Piles,
fields of dead
piles of
bodies,
bodies, piles of dismembered.
unheard of.
Yeah,
You
just
know that
horrific,
that
horrific.
that kind of imagery was unheard of.
Yeah.
Um, But nowadays with what's on TV and the internet and just what is available, there's violence is so common in death and destruction. It's so visualized. We can't escape it.
Well, become immune to violence. We see violence in video games and on TV, and we don't think people are actually being killed because we realize it's a video game or it's a movie.
Yeah, but I think that it makes that question more poignant in this time, more so than I mean, as far as what's ironic is that less people are dying, from like war and famine, disease, and all those. Less people die from those things than back in the day. But now we are much better at visualizing it, so we're much more afraid of it. That getting back to my question, or the first thing I postulated is that yes, society has changed dramatically, but the intellectual elites, what their map of thinking has not changed since they took the pill that truth is relative, that morality is relative, that goodness is relative, and that beauty is relative. Since they took that pill.
Well, okay. I would agree with you, but I would also like to add a codicil, an amendment. And the amendment would be that in the last 10 years, there has been a dramatic shift towards abandoning any honest intellectual inquiry in favor of social justice advocacy and activism among the elite. You can hardly find any serious scholar in English literature or poetry or drama or philosophy, certainly.
Sciences.
Well, they're not scientists, but anyway, you can hardly find a serious thinker who doesn't inject their presumptions about what justice is, social justice is, into their curriculum. You can hardly do it. In fact, it's being woven into every class in biology, in geology. I was speaking to a student the other day who was complaining to me that in his geology class and in his geography class, it was riddled with, we have to overthrow Donald Trump to save humanity. In a geology class, they should study rocks.
That's a new one.
They study rocks, okay? They study
That's
rocks.
a new one. I haven't heard that one before. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I thought ranting about him in a chemistry class is bad. This is like a new low.
Oh no, this is no. So this I agree with you everything you said about the intellectuals, but I would only add an amendment to say that things have gotten much worse in the last 10 years because there's now an open. There's no attempt to be scholarly. There's no attempt at logic and evidence. There's no pretense whatsoever. It is now all about Marxian power. That's
how it's changed. I think is that back in the day in the 1920s, it was theoretical. It was it was a raw theory. Marxism and materialism and all. It wasn't really envisioned, and it wasn't fully thought out or fleshed out as it is now. Now it's become the basic conscience, the subconscious, of the average Joe. We don't even think that's what we've been taught, remarkably. So, and now we can see the fruits have been born. A lot of the sufferings now. A lot of the
we're getting a poor connection signal here. We're getting all
right. Then well, I've pretty much said my point, so I guess we'll end it here. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'm Alex Madagian. That is Professor Mark McIntyre. This is the Alex of Art Show. Throw us money.
See you later. Bye-bye.